Well, this morning on Newswave, we just talked about 343 and Microsoft responding to a lot of the Halo Infinite criticism, specifically around that gameplay. So if you missed that, check that out this morning. But now something else is coming out, and it's leaning into some of the rumors that I've heard of, and we've even talked about at times on the podcast when we had Rand on pretty recently. We had talked about Halo Infinite and the multiplayer possibly going a different route from previous iterations of Halo, a route that could actually help them quite a bit. And it might sound strange now, but as we go through it, I think it'll make a bit more sense overall. Anyway, let's take a look here at why Halo Infinite, I'm not even kidding, could be free to play, and to go a little further beyond that, some of the restrictions around Xbox Live Gold, specifically having to pay for multiplayer, might really be going away. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it and subscribe down below, especially if you like a lot of the next-gen rumors and news and all of that. I have a little bit of the overflow here on this channel from the main one. So let's go over here, because while this did go up, The Verge noticed that it went down pretty quickly from a retailer called Smith's Toys Superstores. And fortunately, The Verge did grab an image of what I'm going to be talking about here and why we're now believing this to be so. You can see it right here. Again, this is The Verge. I'll leave a link below if you want to read a little bit more about this. But it does show the Halo Infinite kind of background there that they released on the Halo Waypoint site. And it says the legendary Halo series returns with the most expansive Master Chief campaign yet and a groundbreaking free-to-play multiplayer experience. Enjoy up to 120 frames per second and greatly reduced load times, creating seamless gameplay with Xbox Series X. Now, originally, the press release that I had received and a lot of others said 4K 60. Now, that could be referring to the Xbox One X. That doesn't necessarily mean the Series X. The Series X could see 120 frames per second, which would be very impressive, obviously, for a shooter like this, especially as more and more TVs, 4K TVs, are starting to come with the 120 hertz mode with 4K. We're getting that jump, of course, to HDMI 2.1, and a lot of TVs now, especially going into this holiday, will have them. A lot of LG TVs already do, and it sounds like Samsung is making a pretty big push themselves to have these. And of course, Sony is starting their own line of sets where they advertise it specifically for the PlayStation 5 with HDMI 2.1. So 4K 120 isn't out of the realm of possibility, as a lot of people are believing, especially since the biggest criticism around Halo Infinite are its visuals. So if the visuals aren't to the level that you are thinking next-gen would be, would 120 frames be that next-gen push? Because we've always talked about how frame rate is frustrating. Well, here could be a game that's going to try to push that beyond 60 frames per second. I like what I'm hearing for that, because it is a shooter. Now, if this was an RPG, I would say, I don't know why you're doing that. It's not really needed. But for a more competitive shooter like Halo, yeah, that's great. I played 144 frames with Halo 3 now at 1440p on my PC, so I welcome this improvement here. But the big part comes down to them saying a groundbreaking free-to-play multiplayer experience. So let's step back for a second and think about this. We've seen games released by Microsoft where it comes in two pieces. Do you remember Crackdown? That was two pieces. You could either download the campaign or you can download the multiplayer. It would show up as two different icons, and you pick which one you want to go into. There is a very good chance that Halo Infinite is going to do that exact same thing. Halo Infinite itself will release, and it'll be a fully fleshed out campaign, as they say themselves, larger than 4 and 5 combined by several times. We see that it's going to be basically an open world Halo game. It's going to be like kind of sectioned off. It sounds a little bit like it has that Metroid progression where you get an item and then all of a sudden you can go to the next big area. That's fine. I mean, that sounds like a cool and different Halo campaign that I am interested in playing, right? But a free-to-play multiplayer expansion, basically? I mean, that's what you would think about Halo Infinite itself being the big campaign and then there being a multiplayer side on its own. Think about it this way. How many people have we seen that don't even play the campaign for Call of Duty? Like I said, Activision just skipped it one year. Black Ops 4 didn't have a campaign. Well, I'm sorry. They rolled story into all of the different components, right? That was their big marketing push. No, you guys, they just didn't feel like making campaign because not a lot of people play through the campaign in some of these shooters. They just go straight to multiplayer. So with Halo, separating it out and making it free to play, that actually helps out Halo quite a bit in its, I guess, just ability to survive going forward against the Fortnites and the Call of Duty Warzones. A free-to-play Halo Infinite multiplayer makes sense on paper. But there is one issue. Xbox Live Gold is technically in the way of that. So you have to have it to play Fortnite. If that runs out and you go to try to play Fortnite, it says you need to sign up for Xbox Live Gold. That is different on the PlayStation and the Switch. You don't need their online subscription to play a free-to-play game. Microsoft, for some reason, has kept these free-to-play games that are probably using like Epic servers, for example, with Fortnite, but you still have to pay Xbox Live Gold, right? It's very strange, and I think that's something that is going to, at the bare minimum, go away when Halo Infinite is introduced. Because if Halo Infinite is a free-to-play game with its multiplayer, and you don't need Xbox Live Gold to play it, even though it is technically, a first-party game, but if you don't need Xbox Live Gold to play it, all of a sudden, the amount of players that can be in there just completely explodes exponentially, right? There are people who don't necessarily want to buy Xbox Live Gold. I mean, it's $60 a year. If you have Game Pass Ultimate, of course, it's included. So I wonder if this is kind of them rolling towards, and it sounds really weird to say this out loud because it has made them a lot of money and it still does. If they're rolling towards getting rid of Xbox Live Gold on its own and rolling it into Game Pass Ultimate where they will figure out some other benefit to give you, or they just get rid of it completely. Think about it. Microsoft is doing Game Pass, and they're doing a lot of games as a service games in there. These are games that have microtransactions, and they rely on monthly active users, right? That is a stat that gets touted constantly by Ubisoft. Microsoft cares about that now quite a bit because they are going heavy subscription service-based for their first-party stuff. Nintendo and Sony are selling their games, right, at $60 a piece, probably $70 soon. Don't worry. The PS5, I'm sure, will jump that up. And that's how they go about making things work. They sell you a game, they move on to make another one. Microsoft wants to sell you a server or sell you a service and keep you on that service going forward. Even if it's $15 a month, that adds up pretty quickly. And they're showing some results with actual big revenue gains over this last quarter. So Halo Infinite being a flagship game just to keep people engaged is worth it to Microsoft, and having a free-to-play multiplayer side makes a ton of sense, but they gotta remove that Xbox Live barrier. You can't have somebody pay $60 a year just to play a free-to-play game because no one else does it. Like, it's just Microsoft, and they're the ones who keep preaching this pro-consumer mindset. It's time to remove that Xbox Live Gold barrier. But Halo Infinite as a free-to-play multiplayer experience, I do have some concerns here. Usually when we hear free-to-play, that typically means microtransactions everywhere. I do wonder if Microsoft will lean into that more and more with Halo. They already did it with Halo 5, where it had microtransactions. It was mostly, I guess, currency and things to customize your appearance. I didn't get to in Halo 5. Once the Master Chief Collection got fixed, I just went with that pretty much constantly to play online for Halo, right? A lot of Halo 3 mostly, but to see them lean into that more, there is some concerns, right? We'll see what happens and how they balance that. That's the biggest thing. But their goal are Game Pass signups. So if they can sign you up for Game Pass for Halo Infinite and you're just playing the multiplayer constantly, they'll keep you on, right? And they'll even give you the campaign on top of that. But let's say you don't have Game Pass. Just having you in that game and maybe willing to spend money on microtransactions or keep you engaged on your Xbox could eventually lead to you signing up for Game Pass. It's all a numbers game to Microsoft. The more people that they can get to play on PC, on xCloud, on Xbox, the more chance they have to continue having you come back and eventually subscribe for Game Pass. They need a lot of people basically engaged at all times for their business model to work. Let me know what you guys think about Halo Infinite, though. Having a campaign that you would buy, it has to be a big campaign, by the way, for it being a $60 game, and then a free-to-play multiplayer coming with it. Right now, this is still a rumor, but it's something I've been hearing about for quite a while, and now to see Smith's Toys Superstores put up this promo and then have to pull it down does make me wonder how much truth is to this, because I think this is going to happen, and I think they're going to tell us this in a separate event coming up, probably in September. I'm going to say, I mean, it could be August, but I'm going to say September, where they go over all of the multiplayer, and one of the big things that they talk about is that it is free to play. Let me know what you guys think about that one down below. I'm really curious how many people are just going to skip the campaign and just download the free to play stuff and just try out the multiplayer, because that means that the online multiplayer will probably never drop to an unsustainable population. I mean, technically Master Chief Collection still has a very high population, and same with Halo 5 for the most part. But if it's free to play, they have a legitimate shot at getting Call of Duty Warzone numbers, maybe Fortnite numbers, but let's start with Call of Duty Warzone first. Thanks guys for watching. Make sure you like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you next time.